So now this is the part two of this presentation. I'm going to play the response to my question regarding that, which I thought was important regarding this issue. So it's talking about embracing the challenge and the problem. And this is Cynthia Choi, by the way, who's answering. So that's one of the questions that one of my questions that I had. And so that's one of my questions I had. So those were my two interviews that I conducted for this event, for this project, that were important to formulate and kind of explain some of the challenge the AAPI community is embracing in this unique circumstance. Namely, the rise of violence and hatred towards them, stemming mainly from the coronavirus and for a lot of the rhetoric that had come from former President Trump and his allies on trying to deflect on the issue at heart. And then concurrently managing the pre-existing issue of racism, bigotry, social marginalization that already existed prior to this new element. So why this campaign is taking a unique situation, is taking this moment to take a new stand, is simply because some events that occurred as of recent, namely this one. And I think you'll know why I'm doing it this way. This is the night that happened. I'm sorry. This is the night that this happened, the report that happened. Or CNN.
My family had to leave Sudan because of the genocide in Darfur.
And I will pause this until the ad comes back.
My name is Imtizal Mahmoud. I study science and write poetry. The thing that I'm most proud of is persisting, being able to say not only am I still here, but I'm still
area Tuesday, leaving 8 people dead and 1 wounded. Police apprehending one suspect, 21-year-old Robert Aaron Locke of Woodstock, Georgia. Law enforcement saying that video evidence suggests that it's extremely likely the same person is responsible for all 3 shootings.
Georgia State Patrol troopers performed a pit maneuver which caused the vehicle to spin out of control. The subject was taken into custody without incident.
What was unique
The
about
first
this?
shooting took place about 30 miles
Those 3
outside
counties.
Atlanta at Young's Asian Massage in Cherokee County. 2 people died at that scene and 2 more died at the hospital. 1 individual was also wounded.
In 2020, we had 1 homicide in Cherokee County, so we've had at least 3 today. So it's pretty shocking for not only our responding deputies and public safety, but also for the community here. We take this very serious.
The other 2 shootings took place in Atlanta Atlanta.
What was
His car right
interesting
across the
is
street
that
from each
when
other.
they were looking
The
for
first
motive,
at Gold
they
Massage Spa,
the motive
leaving 3 dead.
originally
While
was a
police
motive
responded to that
of
shooting, they learned of
sexual
another across the street
frustration,
at a aromatherapy spa. One person was
as
killed
opposed
there.
to racism
Atlanta
early
police
on.
say this investigation is a high priority.
We do have some witnesses that were in the location or around the location. It is extreme priority for us.
According to Atlanta police, the suspect's vehicle was seen at the crime scene in Cherokee County and also on the same street as the shootings in Atlanta.
We just heard numerous gunshots coming from across the street. I won't say any names, but they're really nice girls. They just do great massages. They do great massages over here, so it's just unfortunate.
Authorities tell the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that 6 of the victims were Asian women. Police said they had no immediate indication of a motive for the shootings, but the killings came at a time when attacks on Asian Americans have increased since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. That's left some people questioning whether race played a role. Stop AAPI Hate, the nation's leading group fighting the anti-Asian hate and discrimination, called the deaths an unspeakable tragedy and added, this latest attack will only exacerbate the fear and pain that the Asian American community continues to endure.
And I'm going to kind of hit on something here. That was an issue that irked and also bothered a lot of AAPI activists who felt that the police and law enforcement were were more or less giving the wrong motive or not addressing the 800-pound gorilla in the room, in that the shooter had targeted a spa's run or operated or at least where people of predominantly Asian descent were working at, and that not raising the issue of race, or at least addressing the issue of race, was a bit of a misnomer, and focusing more on the sexual element of it was kind of a bizarre twist, so to speak. But nevertheless, not the issue here. It's the issue that this violent act occurred during the time when it did. And our focus is mainly that issue, why this is an issue that right now legislation, there's an attempt to try to legislate, and this legislation has passed presently and is right now awaiting arrival in the Senate, and will eventually end up with President Biden's desk to essentially research basically the connection between hate crimes and COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic effect on one another as potentially a basis for legal law, so that if someone were to basically commit a hate crime under the basis of either I'm blaming you for COVID, an Asian person for COVID, it would actually be an actual hate crime. Because presently there isn't. But that's the current status of it. It passed the U.S. Senate last week, with both Nevada Senator Cortez Masto and Rosen voting in the affirmative to pass. The only one vote against the 94 was Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, which notably Josh Hawley is mainly famous for his vote in opposition to the 2020 vote canvass, and a sign of fist bump of support as he was leaving the U.S. Capitol as the famous siege occurred on January 6th. He was seen doing this to the crowd that was on its way to the building. Nevertheless, I digress. Our project seeks to more or less try to identify what is the best way of solving this problem. And these are the folks I talked to a couple weeks ago that are trying to raise awareness. News of this is helping to raise awareness, but what's really doing it the most is this group. They're in their website, and their collective allies are attempting to try to solve this. Their website's called, you can notice up there, stopaapi.org. So, right now, I can tell you from the interviews I've conducted and the information I have at this present moment, what's the solution? Well, no one really knows precisely what the exact solution is, as there's multiple angles to this. There's a policy element to it, there's a social element to it, there's a political element to it. There's a lot of little ways you can try to solve this problem, but right now there's not a very clear one-way, single bullet solution. So, that's what I got for this presentation. My element of the interviews.